What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Jamie back with another video, and today I'm going to be going over the Tom Brady situation. There's a lot of speculation of where he's going to go, what team he's going to play for next year, what the GOAT is going to do with the rest of his football career. Tom Brady still has probably another 2 years left in the tank, so he's probably want to collect another championship. So I'm going to be going over the places, the top 5 landing spots of where Tom Brady is going to go this offseason. So if you appreciate this content, give me a subscribe, hit that like button so you can never miss a video. And with that being said, let's jump into the video. Alright, so we're going to go over the top 5 landing spots for Tom Brady, and number 1 is going to surprise you, so stick around for that. I think Tom Brady is going to explore his options in free agency. I can see him going and visiting and kind of dragging this out because, Tom Brady kind of likes the spotlight on him. So it's going to be interesting to see what he wants to do. I think this is a very important decision. I don't think it is clear-cut as him going back to New England like a lot of people are speculating. I think there are some teams that are really into the Tom Brady sweepstakes, and I'm going to be going over that exactly. So with that being said, let's get into my number 5 team where I think Tom Brady might end up. Alright, so at number 5, the team I think has the 5th best chance of signing Tom Brady is the Las Vegas Raiders. There has been speculation of him talking to Mark Davis at UFC and him getting vetted and him already actually having an offer, 2 years, $30 million per year, to go play for the Las Vegas Raiders. So let's go over why it would make sense and why it wouldn't make sense. So the pros and cons are that the Las Vegas Raiders have a very solid offensive line. They've invested a lot of money into that line. They have Colton Miller on the left side. They have their center, Rodney Hudson. He has not given up a sack in 2 years. He is an absolute stud at center, and so they got a solid offensive line. They got a very hyped up situation. So as I said, they're going to Las Vegas. Las Vegas is obviously the betting center of America, and it's going to be very interesting to kind of start off their tenure there with a big boom. So what bigger way than bringing in the GOAT? And as I said, he's going to get paid if he goes there, so that's also a very high incentive of going there. And Tom Brady has a solid running back there in Josh Jacobs and a solid tight end there in Darren Waller. So the cons of going there is that they basically have no weapons at wide receiver, which they probably will fix very early on in the NFL draft by drafting one of the top studs there. So that could be fixed, but they don't have really anybody. They got a solid slot in Hunter Renfrow, and Terrell Williams is a number 2 receiver, but overall that is one of the weakest parts of their team. Their defense is suspect. They had a tough time getting a pass rush. Max Crosby surprised everybody by being a very productive edge rusher as a rookie. Cleveland Farrell still has a way to go, but their defense is overall suspect. If you want to compete for a Super Bowl, which is what Tom Brady wants to do in the end of his career, that's why he's going to choose where he wants to go, what gives him the best situation to have a Super Bowl. I don't think the Las Vegas Raiders are it. I still think they're a couple years away from competing for a Super Bowl, and it's very interesting what they'll do with Derek Carr, because they already have Derek Carr there, and in my opinion, Derek Carr is a very underappreciated quarterback in this league. Like, he's maybe not going to be a top 5 caliber quarterback, but he's more than a serviceable quarterback, and it's coming from a Denver fan. Every time he plays Denver, he puts up a 70% passing completion there, and I just think that people are shitting on him too much for no reason. Anyways, but Tom Brady is, regardless, an upgrade over Derek Carr. So with that being said, I'm going to go into the depth charts of every team as well, so we can see where they're going to lose people and what their team would look like with Tom Brady as their signal caller. So let's go over to the next slide. Alright, so as you can see here, this is the depth chart currently. All of the players in red are pending free agents, and Tom Brady is obviously in the blue, so this is how they set up. So obviously you can see their wide receiving core is quite shit. Terrell Williams, Hunter Renfrow, Zay Jones has been relatively a big bust. They got Josh Jacobs in the backfield. I believe they're re-signing Jalen Richard. And their offensive line is solid. They got Trent Brown, Colton Miller, Gabe Jackson, solid guard. Richie Incognito, I'm not sure if he's coming back or going back into retirement. Rodney Hudson, obviously that line is solid. Their defense, as I said, is quite suspect. They need linebackers really bad. Carl Joseph is a free agent. Their cornerback situation isn't great. I'm not going to lie to you. Having Trayvon Mullen there is solid, but he's not a number one corner, so they need to address that in the draft. And Daryl Worley was probably going to leave in free agency. So this is kind of what it looks like. And honestly, this is why I have them at number 5. I don't think this is the best situation for Tom to go. So as you said, Las Vegas Raiders, it's going to be a pretty interesting thing to see how they're growing, but I don't think Tom Brady is going to go there. So with that being said, let's go on to team number 4. All right, so the team that has the 4th best chance to sign Tom Brady this offseason, in my opinion, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are an interesting situation because they are very, very loaded in terms of weapons. So the biggest thing that everyone is speculating for why Tom Brady won't return to New England is because they do not have offensive weapons around them, while Tampa Bay, on the other hand, is just loaded with weapons. They have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, probably the top receiving tandem in the league. They got really good tight ends in Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard. Even though O.J. Howard has underachieved since being drafted, his potential is immense. And so, I mean, like, Tom Brady has always utilized his tight ends well. So, I mean, with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez before he went crazy, tight ends have been a big part of Tom Brady's career. So, their running back situation isn't great. They still need to upgrade over Ronald Jones and Peyton Barber there. But they'll do that in free agency where they'll either sign someone like Melvin Gordon, Kenyon Drake, or they'll just draft one. I mean, there's tons of good running backs in this draft as well. Their roster overall is very solid. They don't have a very good pass defense, but everything else is pretty good. I mean, they were number 1 against the run on defense. Their offensive line is very good. That's one of the pros that I have here. I think they're an underrated team in my opinion. I think they're going to make the playoffs next year, even if Tom Brady doesn't go back. They have a ton of cap space, so they have a top 5 cap space. I believe they have about $80 million in cap space, so they're going to be able to pay Tom Brady, and if whoever else they want to bring in, they're going to be able to bring in who Tom Brady wants, be able to cater to his needs. Be able to upgrade that defense as well. Maybe they do go out and sign a guy like Byron Jones to fix that secondary, which would make a lot of sense there. And their O-line, as I said, is very good. Surprisingly, they were the number 2 pass blocking line in the league last year. They got some pretty solid pieces in place. So the cons why I don't think this will happen, I don't have too many, but I think they're very important. So the first one is pass defense. Their pass defense was atrocious. Seriously, like bottom of the league. I think those results could be somewhat skewed as well because of how many times Jameis Winston turned over the ball last year, because he turned it over I think 33 times, 30 interceptions, 3 fumbles. So you can't really blame them when they just go back on the field. It also defeats the morale of the defense doing that. The second one, and probably the most important one, is that they might prefer other QBs. So Tom Brady is reaching the end of his career and his arm strength is starting to wane, and Bruce Arians' offense is an attacking style offense, and he likes gunslingers. Like Jameis Winston, yeah, he threw a shit ton of picks last year, but he also threw a shit ton of touchdowns, and he led the league in passing yards. So he likes a guy to be able to push the ball downfield. They have the weapons needed to do that, and I don't think Tom Brady is much like that of a quarterback anymore. Like in New England, he did a lot of dump-off passes to James White. He did a lot of short crossings to Edelman. So it's not really his game anymore. And so they might want to go for a guy who can push the ball downfield like Teddy Bridgewater, maybe trade for a guy like Cam Newton, or just draft one of the guys in the draft like Jordan Love or Jacob Eason. Like, I mean, that thing is that the way they're going to go. But as I said, Tampa Bay would be a very interesting spot to watch out for Tom Brady. So let's go into their depth chart and see what we have here. So if you look at their secondary is not very good. Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy, Bunting, Justin Evans, and Jordan Whitehead. And then their free agents are Rashad Perriman, who they'll probably lose in free agency, and Ndamukong Suh, which will probably lose as well. And who knows what they're going to do with Jason Pierre-Paul is there as well. He didn't even finish the year healthy. But as I said, the offensive line is good, very good pass protectors. They need to upgrade the running back position, but this is basically what you're looking at for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So very solid roster overall, very good. They got 2 really good middle linebackers. I love their middle linebackers. Shaq Barrett, 19.5 sacks, led the league last year. So Tampa Bay has an up-and-coming roster, but I don't think Tampa Bay is going to be the prime suitor for Tom Brady, and so that's why I have them at number 4. So let's get into number 3 and move on. So the team I have the 3rd best chance of getting Tom Brady is the Los Angeles Chargers. Because the Los Angeles Chargers are kind of similar. They have very good weapons. They just retained Austin Eckler, and they're going to franchise Hunter Henry, which is really big. So they got all their weapons intact. Who knows if they're going to do anything with Melvin Gordon. I think Melvin Gordon's going to be able to walk. So they have a good defense as well. Like, they got Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram on the outside. They just drafted Jerry Tillery. They do need some help on the interior of that line. They have one of the best safeties in Derwin James. Casey Hayward and Desmond King are a solid cornerback. Casey Hayward's not too long about being one of the best corners in the league, so they got a very solid defense. They just can't stay fucking healthy. They got a pretty good team, Los Angeles. Even though they're picking number 6, I think that they do have a decent foundation there. So let's get into the cons. They have a very weak offensive line. They did trade for Trey Turner and just robbed the Panthers. I don't know if the Panthers just did that on purpose just to have a better selection next year and maybe be able to draft Trevor Lawrence, but that was a terrible trade, and Los Angeles just fleeced them. So they got rid of Russell Okung, so they don't really have a tackle at the moment. They really don't have a good one, and you need to protect Tom Brady, especially you can't get him hit all the time. He's old. I mean, Tom Brady's really never been hurt except for that ACL tear back in, I think, 2013. But other than that, like, he's been very healthy for his career, and so, but having a weak offensive line is not what you want. They could, if they get him, they might be able to draft one, but offensive tackles take a longer time to transition to the NFL properly compared to other positions, so that's something to be worried about. They could trade for Trent Williams, but I mean, I'm not going to predict anything until this happens. The second one, and probably a big one that Tom Brady's going to think about, is he's going to fight for a wild card every year. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win a division for the next prolonged period of time, and as a Denver fan, I'm sad about that, but I can accept it because Kansas City is absolutely loaded. So we're going to be fighting for wild card, and I don't know if Tom Brady's about that. I mean, there's softer divisions out there that kind of plays into it as well, you know, but also a return back home to California, which I have in the pros, is super enticing. Los Angeles would be very good for his wife. He's from he's from California, so that could be something as well. Yeah, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. And Los Angeles, honestly, they could go either way right now. Like, they have a solid roster, but they could rebuild. Like, they could just rebuild, but I don't think they're going to go in that direction. I think they have enough pieces to not rebuild, but they might be going in a different direction. So they might want to start with a young quarterback, is what I mean by rebuild. They might want to go with a guy like Cam Newton. Because, I mean, Tom Brady only is a 2-year rental, and if they don't think they can just win it in 2 years, I don't think they're going to go in the Tom Brady direction. But let's take a look what the roster would look like with Tom Brady there. So here we have Tom Brady. So Gordon and Eckler, as I said, all the players in red are free agents. So Eckler is returning. Travis Benjamin they're going to let go with. Russell Okung is gone. Michael Schofield is a free agent, and honestly, he was in Denver for a while. He's not very good. Hunter Henry is coming back. Adrian Phillips on the back end will probably be lost in free agency, and that's pretty much it. They need like linebacker help. They're probably going to need another safety in the draft. I mean, they drafted the Delaware safety last year, so maybe he can come back and being healthy, but it's going to be interesting what they can do. They also need help on the interior of that offensive line as well. So I want to say San Diego. It just feels so weird saying Los Angeles, but Los Angeles has a decent team, but it's going to be interesting to see if it's going to make sense for Tom Brady to go there. So as I said, I think they're the third team to get Tom Brady, but we'll see what happens. So now let's go on to number 2, and this is where the fun is starting. So the number 2 team I have getting Tom Brady is the Patriots. So people are saying like, oh, he's going to go back to the Patriots, but let's just look and let's just observe it to see why I think he's not going to go back to the Patriots. He very well could. I mean, it's number 2 team for sure, but I mean, there's a lot of things leading me to believe that he's not going to go back. And so let's go with the pros first off. It's the familiarity. I mean, he's been a Patriot his whole life. He is the Patriots. He is what you think of when you think of the Patriots. Obviously, you think of Bill Belichick, but Tom Brady is the man. The winning tradition there, I mean, 6 rings. They're always fighting for an AFC championship game, if not a Super Bowl, every year. Their defense was great last year. Number 1 defense. Player of the year, Stephon Gilmore on their team. Awesome. And plus, he's lived there for a very long time. He's got kids. I mean, his wife is there with him. They have a home. Like, it's established life. So it's very comfortable. They have their friends. Like Julian Edmonds, his best friend. He's got Mark Wahlberg, who he hangs out with all the time. So, I mean, it's just very comfortable for him. But let's talk about the football aspect of it. And let's see, this is why I think that he's not going to return to New England as a slam dunk. So they have nobody in terms of weapons. I mean, last year they had Josh Gordon and Antonio Brown starting off the year, and you're like, wow, this is going to be ridiculous. And then Josh Gordon can't stop smoking weed, and Antonio Brown literally lost his mind. So that was basically turned from like one of the top units in the whole league to one of the worst units in the whole league in just a short span of time. And then they traded for Mohamed Sanu, but he did nothing. He did absolutely nothing since coming over. I think he didn't even catch 10 passes in 4 games or something like that for the Patriots. So they really don't have a weapon. N'Keal Harry has been taking quite a long time to get it going. Jacoby Myers was a nice undrafted player that they picked up, but it's going to be seeing if he can really make a difference. They're losing a ton of players in free agency, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So it's going to be interesting to see who they can retain and if they're going to pay Tom Brady like a decent amount. And I'm wondering if their relationship is fractured between Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, and Tom Brady. I mean, and it seems to be a little bit rocky over the last couple of years, especially with the Jimmy Garoppolo trade, because like Jimmy Garoppolo was obviously going to be the heir apparent to Tom Brady for Bill Belichick, but Tom Brady basically forced Jimmy Garoppolo out. He made like a big fuss about it, and he was like acting like a little child in like the quarterback room and stuff like that. He felt threatened by Jimmy Garoppolo. Obviously, they offloaded him to San Francisco, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. That just doesn't go away, and so maybe they can put it aside and come back for another year, but they really need to get weapons. They really need to sign somebody. And so the way I could see this is if they trade for a tight end. They've been in talks about trading for Hayden Hurst, and there's a very interesting possibility of them blasting a lot of money at Amari Cooper to come and play with Tom Brady. And I think if that happens, that would be a very interesting dilemma to see if that would entice Tom Brady to return. But I don't know. I honestly think Tom Brady's ready for a different period in time in his life, like a different team, a fresh start. But let's go over the Patriots roster to see where they're at here. So you see Devin McCourty and you have Jason McCourty. They could lose both of them. You got Jamie Collins, free agent, and Kyle Van Noy is a free agent. So those are both their edge rushers. Danny Shelton, their nose tackle. He's an average nose tackle. I don't know if they'll bring him back. But Joe Tooney, he's going to be a free agent as well. And Benjamin Watson, they have nobody at tight end. So they need to address tight end. They need to address wide receiver. They got good running backs. Michelle's like a thumper downhill. White's a great pass catching back. And they got a pretty good offensive line too. But, I mean, they just got a lot of question marks. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with New England and just how they deal with everything, because it's just such a transient time in their life right now, or in their organization at the moment. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. With that being said, let's just get on to the number one team who I think has the best shot signing Tom Brady. So the number one team I think that has the best shot at signing Tom Brady is the Tennessee Titans. And this is a team that has been thrown around recently, and to me, it just makes the most sense. So we have the strong offensive line. They have a very good offensive line. Jack Conklin is going to be a free agent, so they might not be able to re-sign him, but be able to get one in free agency. They might be able to get one in the draft, so that's not too big of a deal. They got Taylor Lewan, one of the best left tackles in the whole league. They just shelled out a shit ton of money for Roger Saffold III last offseason, so their offensive line is very good. There's a ton of Patriot ties on the Tennessee Titans. Malcolm Butler, the Super Bowl hero, one of their corners. Logan Ryan, who is going to be a free agent, but he's also a Patriot. Dion Lewis, who might be released. I'm just listing all these players that are going, but Dion Lewis played with Tom Brady in a Super Bowl. He's on the Tennessee Titans. Mike Vrabel, former teammate of Tom Brady, head coach. They have the old philosophy of New England. Ground and pound, open up the throwing lanes. They got Derrick Henry, biggest running back in the whole league, reminiscent of when they had LeGarrette Blount there. As I said, Dion Lewis, toss it off, dump it off. But they can also draft a guy if Derrick Henry leaves, like J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, they have a very solid offensive foundation. They have really good pieces in place. They have a young stud in A.J. Brown. They got the 5th overall pick a few years ago in Corey Davis, who is a great blocker, not so good receiver, but he can still go up in the red zone and get it. They got Delaney Walker. They got Jonnu Smith. And they're in a super, super soft division. Well, not super, super soft, but they're in a soft division. There's no clear cut between the Texans and the Colts, and Jacksonville is an irrelevant team now. With Tennessee there, they made it all the way to the AFC Championship game and beat New England. And so Tom Brady knows firsthand what Tennessee is all about. And I think having that experience and being able to be a part of that, he doesn't have to do everything. He can play his game. And I think having that relationship with Mike Vrabel is going to be really interesting. And plus, he FaceTimed Mike Vrabel with Julian Edelman at a basketball game. Not saying that means anything, but I'm just saying that they're close. It makes sense because they need a quarterback, and Ryan Tannehill is a free agent. And so that's the con. It's like, well, Tannehill played outstanding once he got an opportunity. And I don't think Tannehill is going to be that good when he goes to another team. I think it's going to be like a Nick Foles thing. Like, for instance, Nick Foles goes to another team, kind of sucks, goes back to Philly as a hero, leaves, sucks, comes back, hero. I think it's going to be kind of a similar thing with Tannehill. I mean, Tannehill really thrived in that game as well, but he really didn't have to do too much because Derrick Henry is a battering ram in the playoffs and stuff like that. But I think Tom Brady is nonetheless an upgrade over Ryan Tannehill, and I think it's so enticing to bring in a guy like Tom Brady there. And so I think it'd be interesting. And the second thing I have is, are they going to retain Derrick Henry? It's going to be interesting to see because he's going to command a lot of money in the market. I'm not exactly sure if they're going to be able to get him. But let's take a look at what their team is going to look like with Tom Brady at the helm. So, as you said, Hunter Henry is a free agent. Tom Brady is there. Jack Conklin and Wesley Woodyard are the only pending free agents. As I said, they might be cutting a couple players, but I mean, they got a pretty solid team. I mean, Harold Landry is a good edge rusher. Jarrell Casey is one of the most underrated defensive linemen in the whole league. Justin Simmons, he was hurt, but he has top 5 talent. They got him at 19 last year. They got probably the best safety duo in the league in Kevin Byard and Kenny Vaccaro. Kevin Byard is amazing. They got pretty good corners. Adoree Jackson's super fast. Malcolm Butler's up and down play over the last couple of years. And their wide receivers, I mean, Adam Humphries, I mean, a white slot guy. It's Tom Brady's guy, man. He thrives with the white slot guys. Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, Adam Humphries. Seems natural fit. You got the white slot. As I said, their offensive line is really, really good. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep Jack Conklin, but they might be able to. And their wide receivers are good enough. A.J. Brown was really, really good last year. So I think that this offense and this team is set up really nicely. Plus, they got the draft coming up. And so I think Tennessee would be a very interesting spot for Tom Brady to go. It's all speculation at this moment in time. I do think it's mostly going to be New England and Tennessee, perhaps the Chargers as well, that are going to be fighting for the services of Tom Brady. I mean, I didn't include this team because it just seems like such a far shot, but San Francisco, maybe bringing in Tom Brady. He's a San Francisco Bay Area boy. I didn't put it in because I think it's so far-fetched. I mean, you just gave Jimmy Garoppolo so much money, and wouldn't that be something if Tom Brady supplanted Jimmy G in San Francisco and then Jimmy G went back to the Patriots or something? That'd be absolutely insane. It could happen, but I don't think it's realistic for that to happen. So these are my top 5 teams that I think Tom Brady is going to go to. So that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed this. And let me know where you think Tom Brady is going to go. Do you think he's going to leave New England? Do you think he is going to stay in New England? It's so interesting. This is such a crazy offseason with 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks as free agents. Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady. And just the quarterback carousel this offseason is going to be unreal. So that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button and subscribe button and share this with your friends if you think this is a cool video. And I will see you next time. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you later.